Welcome to Receiving Noor weekly Quran study. This is our last session of this calendar year of 2016, and we will be doing the final session of Surah 61, Surah al-Saff, and we're also excited about our retreat coming up in a couple of days, our annual. So with that, I turn to Sister Yamina to lead us in the last final verses of Surah 61 tonight. Jazakallah khair. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد عليه الصلاة. So these are the last verses of Surah al-Saff, which is Surah 61. Last week we stopped at Ayah 8 and 9. And just for a reminder, we were told in Ayah 8 and 9, they want to extinguish God's light with their mouths, but God has willed to spread his light in all its fullness, however hateful this may be to the disbelievers. He it is who has sent his messenger with the guidance and the religion of truth in order to make it prevail over all religion, however hateful this may be to the al-mushrikun, those who commit shirk and ascribe partners to God. And now we start from Ayah 10, inshallah. In Ayah 10, I'll go from 10 to 14. This surah has 14 ayahs, so 14 is the last ayah of the surah. O you who have believed, shall I point to you a bargain that will save you from grievous suffering? You are to believe in God and his messenger and to strive in God's cause with your possessions and your lives. This is for your own good, if you but knew. If you do so, he will forgive you your sins and will admit you into gardens through which running waters flow, and into goodly mansions in gardens of perpetual bliss. That is the triumph supreme. And he will grant you yet another thing that you dearly love, help from God and an imminent breakthrough, and give the believers good news. O you who have believed, be the helpers of God, even if, as Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, the son of Mary, said unto the disciples, who will be my helpers in God? Whereupon the disciples replied, we shall be the helpers of God. And so some of the children of Israel came to believe, whereas others denied, and we have given strength against their foes unto those who have believed. And they have become the ones that shall prevail. I'll go through the Arabic each time when we go ayah by ayah, inshallah. So in ayah 10 and 11, استعيذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا هل أدلكم على تجارة تنجيكم من عذاب أليم تؤمنون بالله ورسوله وتجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالكم وأنفسكم ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. So here, O you who have believed, I point to you a bargain, a trade, tijara, that will save you from grievous suffering. And what is that bargain? You believe in God and his messenger. And it made me personally stop and pause, because wasn't the audience here, the addressee, the believer? Why are they told that you believe in God and his messenger? And then if you remember from the beginning, this surah starts with those who believe, but actually they say something and they do something else. In the second ayah, we were told, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَا تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. O you who have believed, how come you say you say what you don't do? It means you don't act on your claimed belief. And so it's so far from the beginning to here, it's clear that the addressee here, their belief is superficial only. It's a taqlidi iman, as it is. They believe, but not enough to make them live according to that belief. Which means they say what they don't do. They claim they believe something, but actually they don't live according to that belief. And how do we know what a person believes? When we look at what they do, not what they claim. If someone claims to be a medical doctor, but has no clue about medicine, we don't believe them. He's just claiming. So here they claim to be believers, but they're not there yet. And God, in his infinite mercy, is offering a deal to these people who believed, to save them from, we are told, grievous suffering. It means without this deal, although they think that they believe, if they just carry on the way they are believing, their end will take them to grievous suffering, not to Jannah, not to paradise. And this is a deal, this is a trade, a tijara. And that word also is an indication that of their state of mind, of their understanding. They think they are trading with God. They're not aware that the surrenderer, the Muslim, not capital M, but small m, the Muslim who is muhsin, is aware that we don't own anything. We're totally owned. We're totally dependent on the sustainership of our Rabb. I cannot even, I don't know how I'm breathing. I cannot sustain my breathing. But when we live in ghafla, it seems like my life is mine. So as if we are actually trading with God. We're sacrificing, we're giving him something, and then he is giving us Jannah or something in return. And so this is also a sign that the person who is at the level of, they think they are trading, are not yet true surrenderers. But at least it's a starting point, because they don't deny, they believe, however superficial that is. It's a starting point if they are wise enough, they are not foolish, if they are wise enough to take up the deal and act on it. So God is reminding us again that belief in God and his messenger, so belief in God requires believing in the messenger and therefore in the message. The message has two aspects: the message, the Quran for us, and how to live with the Quran. That's why the messenger himself is important, because what's the point in having a message if it's not going to transform me, if I'm not going to follow it? What's the point is having a map if I am never going to use it? So we're reminded that belief in God and his messenger is not a claim only, as we sometimes seem to think. Although, because if it's a claim only, that's not Iman. Iman, belief, requires us to strive in God's path, in the way that God has paved for us and showed us through his messengers and messages, through his guidance. It's a path that leads us to Akhirah here and now. It's a path that shows us how to participate in the tasbih of everything here and now. That was the first ayah of the surah. And so we strive in God's path. How? With our possessions and our lives. And so Iman, as if we go back from the beginning, is based on evidences. The whole word is full of ayat, making tasbih and glorifying God, praising Him, and bearing witness to the truth of the message of the Quran. So Iman is to believe with that yaqeen, with that certainty, because we have witnessed, we see the evidences everywhere. And it is to believe in God, the eternal, the everlasting, and trust in Him alone. We trust in everything else only in His name, not the thing themselves, forgetting about their sustainer. And that's true tawheed. Otherwise, it just claims. And truly, if we think of here, it says possessions and lives. It's actually it's a very convincing argument, because our possessions and lives are transient. They are ephemeral. They are not lasting without His sustaining. My life can end anytime, and when it ends, as far as I'm concerned, I cannot sustain it now, and I cannot sustain it after my death. So how can we, or how do we delude ourselves when everything, including not only our possessions, but including our lives, because without our lives, anything else doesn't make any sense. We relate to everything else because of what we call our lives. And all these things are will end, are ephemeral. Anytime they can disappear. They are impermanent. And so the way to make everything permanent is to give the trust back to its true owner. But of course, in the beginning here, we don't still know that it is a trust and that we are just giving back the trust to its true owner. In the beginning, it feels like we are making a deal. We're trading with God. I'm giving you my life. You're giving me something in return. You're giving me eternal life. But truly, is life ours? We can't even sustain it. In ghafla, though, that's how it feels. That's an illusion, the illusion of the ego, that it's ours, life is ours to do what we want. And that's why it's not easy to surrender. It's mine, I do whatever I want. Of course, what I want, anything outside the only guidance, which is the will of God, and He makes His will clear to us through His guidance, is going to lead us to grievous suffering. And that's why He says, shall I offer you a deal that will save you from grievous suffering? Because if you don't follow this map, this guidance, you're going to be in grave, you'll have serious problems. But of course, the ego doesn't see it that way. It seems like, oh, it's my life, I do whatever I want. And at the beginning here, it seems like, as believers now, we think that we are doing something for the sake of God. And it feels like we're sacrificing. And we expect a reward, we expect paradise in return. Whereas actually, paradise is a gift of pure mercy. It's not because we did something in return, because when we are not doing something, we are abusing God's trust. when we are doing what we're supposed to do, we're just preserving the trust. We are not going against reality, the truth that life is not ours. So in that state of awareness of ihsan, we start realizing that life and everything given to us is a trust to be used in God's name and the way He sees this fit. So in God's name doesn't mean that I devise my own guidance. There is only one guidance, divine guidance. That's it. Anything else is misguidance. So in his tafsir of the beginning of ayah 111 of Surah 9, which is Surah At-Tawbah, this Imam Nursi, he shows how profitable a trade it is to sell one's life and property to God and be His abd. That's what it means, be His abd truly, surrender to Him alone, totally, wholly, fully, completely. And that ayah is إِنَّ اللَّهَ اشْتَرَى مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَنفُسَهُمْ وَأَمْوَالَهُمْ بِأَنَّ لَهُمُ الْجَنَّةِ. God has bought from the believers their lives and their possessions, promising them paradise in return. So it's like, again, it's a deal, because in the beginning, that's how it seems. And can you see, this is also rahmah. God doesn't say from the beginning, what, like, everything is mine. What do you mean? He knows us. We are, in the beginning, we're deluded. So he said, okay, you give it back to me. I'll take care of it for you. I'll show you the way to preserve it the best way. He doesn't tell us from the beginning, what do you mean? It's not yours anyway. Who are you? Subhanallah, how beautiful and how merciful and how generous. So
can I ask something here? So so in that verse it's saying that sell me back, but and you're saying that's very generous and merciful. At the same time, isn't this part of the wisdom as well? Like, the whole point is, if the way we are made, we first think it's ours, and then we go through a process of soul searching. Can I give it back or not? And that process itself is human development, human growth, because otherwise we wouldn't be on this earth. We would be in heaven, where everything is transparent. There's nothing to sell back because everything's obviously His. So can we also say that our kind of initial misunderstanding is, this is mine, it's me, mine, and then feeling
true,
surrender.
From one point of view, you can say that. From another point of view, these are already people who believe, which means they were supposed to or to know all this, and still they are not living according to that belief. So it depends how you want to look at it. I prefer to look at it this way, because otherwise we keep pampering the nafs al-ammara, the ego. Yes, at the beginning it's true, but like how long? Like forever we stay in first grade? Here it's not talking to first graders. It's not saying Ya ayyuhan nas, for instance, saying Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. And it means they know, because it's Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. It means they know, they are saying it. They say we surrender, they say we are this, they say, but they're not doing it. So it's just a take. and because of that, I see it as extremely merciful and compassionate. What do you think?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean,
like, can you see how forbearing God is with us? Alhamdulillah, subhanallah, astaghfirullah. Yes, you wanted to say something, Isra?
No, yeah, I mean, I see your point as well, that especially in this surah, starting out, why do you say what you don't do? Um, it is more of a wake-up call.
Yeah, inshallah. So Imam Nursi, in his tafsir of إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة, he gives various examples, and I'll only quote two. Just a beautiful risala. It's from one of his works that's called The Words, and this is the 6th word. And each word is the tafsir of one or more ayat. And so he says, the eye, so he gives the example of the eye. The eye is one of the senses, a window through which the spirit, the ruh, looks out on this world. If you do not sell it to God Almighty, but rather employ it on behalf of the nafs, of the ego, by gazing upon a handful of transient, impermanent beauties, it will sink to the level of being a pander to lust and the concupiscent ego, but the nafs al-ammara. But if you sell the eye to your all-seeing maker, it means you are aware of that the seeing, al-basir, is my maker, my Rabb. And so this seeing is not mine. I'm seeing because he's the seer. He's the one who is making me see. And employ it on his behalf and within the limits traced by him, then your eye will rise to the rank of a reader of the great book of being. It becomes a reader of the ayat, of the signs of God in the world, a witness to the miracles of dominical art of rububiyyah. It will see the miracles of rububiyyah everywhere. A blessed bee sucking on the blossoms of mercy in the gardens of this globe. It will be like a bee sucks on beautiful flowers to make honey, and here it will suck on the blossoms of mercy to make the honey of Iman and Ma'rifatullah, and knowing God and believing in Him and loving Him. And this is the tasbih of our eyes and their ibadah, their worships. And he gives another example, which is that of the tongue and the sense of taste. So the tongue has many, it speaks, for instance, as well. But in this quote, it's the sense of taste. If you do not sell it, if you do not sell the sense of taste to your wise creator, but employ it instead on behalf of the ego and for the sake of the stomach only, it sinks and declines to the level of a gatekeeper at the stable of the stomach. But if you sell it to the generous provider, to the Razzaq al-Kareem, then the sense of taste contained in the tongue will rise to the rank of a skilled overseer of the treasuries of divine compassion, a grateful inspector in the kitchens of God's eternal power. And actually, when he gives, not only in this risala, but in other places, lots of reflection on the sense of taste, for instance, because it's amazing how many tastes we can taste, actually, and we can differentiate between the tastes, when actually we don't need them just for the stomach or for growth or for to sustain the body, the physical body, because the time when we actually need sustenance the most is when we are babies and we grow very fast then. And that time we have only one kind of food. So it is possible to have one food for a being that grows very fast. But the fact that there are so many different foods, and not only that, but we mix them together. So there are so many, and we combine them, and we can differentiate between all of them. I mean, if you wanted to write a program for a computer to recognize all this, it would be too hard because it wouldn't recognize new tastes. But we do recognize new tastes, and we say, oh, this is different, this looks like this, it's a little bit bitter, it's a little bit sweeter. It's subhanallah. So it cannot have been, this tool, this sense of taste cannot have been given to us just to fill our stomach. It has some other higher functions of tasbih and worship and ibadah. And then he says, when you sell it, when you employ it that way, then in the name of the generous provider, then that sense of taste becomes like a skilled overseer of the treasuries of divine compassion. It's full, they are treasuries, and when you open them with your sense of taste, you find all different kind of beautiful names reflected there. The beauty, the generosity, the providing, the coloring, the all kinds of, mashallah, treasuries. And then it becomes a grateful inspector in the kitchens of God's eternal power. It will be ready to be used in paradise, inshallah. So the next ayah is, He will forgive you. If you do so, then He will forgive you your sins and will admit you into gardens through which running waters flow, and into goodly mansions in gardens of perpetual bliss. That is the triumph supreme. If we do so, it means if we actually do sell our lives, our possessions and lives to God. And when our intention is to sell back everything, including our lives, to God, which is actually, we are selling back what belongs to Him, and we do our best to act upon that intention, because intention is what comes right before you take action. So if we intend something and never act on it, that's not an intention, unless it was beyond my will, my choice. But if I have all the opportunities and I don't act on it, then I have not intended. That's my wish. Once it becomes intention, it means I have decided to act on it if possible. And so when we have that intention, when we act on that intention to sell back everything to God, then He forgives our sins. Because however we walk that path, there will be still mistakes. There will be still discrepancies between what we say and what we do. So the point here is not to do it perfectly, because if my aim is I'll be perfect and do it perfectly, I miss the point of ubudiyah, which is that it's not from me, it's done unto me. So it can't be, even if it's perfect, if I attribute it to myself, again, I have to start from zero. Again, I will have to ask for forgiveness. And so it's nice that there is this good news that start this big project and do not think about what if I make mistakes, what if I can't make it. It's okay, as long as you start acting with that intention, living with that intention, because He forgives your sins and will admit you into gardens of eternal bliss. And so the only unforgivable sin, remember, is shirk. And shirk is to assume that No, it's mine. I'm not going to give it back. So it's here. We are getting closer to the true surrender, because I may still feel it's mine, but I'm ready to let go of it and give it to God. Later I will realize that it was not mine anyways. I'm just giving back what was his, what I had appropriated, falsely appropriated. And so I'm just giving him what belonged to him all along. And because of that transaction, then I also realize how I am being protected and helped all along. But if someone does not accept to give what we think is our life and our possessions, and doesn't want to accept the deal, then that smells shirk, and that you understand now why shirk is cannot be forgiven, because what can God do more than this for us? If we don't help ourselves, no one can help us. So when we live as abd, the more we live as abd, the more we live with ihsan, then the taste of the blessings through iman in this life, the blessings that are I'm talking about this life, we start tasting them. I'm not talking only about the sense of taste, but everything else, seeing, hearing, everything. And we start realizing that everything is a sign, an ayah, a harbinger to the blessings of paradise. And that's when we realize that actually God's help has been all along with us, but we were not aware of it. We were disconnected. And the next ayah says, and he will also grant you yet another thing that you love dearly, help from God and an imminent breakthrough, an opening, and give the believers good news. وَأُخْرَى تُحِبُّونَهَا نَصْرٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَفَتْحٌ قَرِيبٌ وَبَشِّرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. So when there is something, another even better and more profitable bargain that you will love, we are told in this ayah. And what is that even better thing that we will love, that will come together with the bargains? Like you get 2 for the price of 1, and there is an extra gift. And that thing is something that you really love, help from God. And that comes within it, because the more we sell back our life and possessions to God, the more we realize that actually He's been taking care of it all the time. That actually it's not mine. That actually He's the Rabb, the one who sustains everything. And so we, within the first deal, the first bargain, we find as we live it, we can confirm the truth of Ayah 13. And that's something we dearly love, because we dearly need it. Help from God. Can you imagine? What else do you need if God is our helper? And it says, and an imminent breakthrough. Fath, some translations say victory, but fath does not mean primarily, is nothing to do with victory. Victory can be understood in some context, but the word literally means opening, breakthrough. And victory can be seen as an opening, as a breakthrough as well. But I wanted to use the primary word because it fits here better. And so it's a breakthrough, because when we truly surrender and start living from the heart, then that's when we start experiencing true love. True love stems from the heart, not from the ego. The ego wants everything for myself. That's not love. And it stems from the heart, and it occurs when when we start living from the heart instead of the ego, when we start living from the surrendered heart instead of the self-deceiving ego, the ego that lives in illusions, that I own my life, I am independent, I am self-sufficient, in the illusion of istighna. And so then it's a breakthrough when we start living from the heart. Love here, تحبونها, is an indication that the heart is involved here at this level. Things that seemed impossible become possible. Things that were incomprehensible start making sense. They were incomprehensible for the ego, but they make sense for the surrendered heart, because a new, totally new perspective open up. And this perspective is so vast. For the ego, everything was horizontal, everything was happening between me and things. But now for the heart is aware, becomes aware of the vertical relationship of everything with God, with the divine, with Alam al-Ghayb. And so what we see is only the tip of the iceberg, because everything has an aspect that looks to akhirah, that looks to eternity. The heart, the surrendered heart, will become aware of the face of God, that face of everything that looks to the divine names, to al-Asma al-Husna. And that's when the heart is content finally. ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. It reaches that itmi'inan. So when we are conscious of our connection with our Maker and our dependency on our Rabb, we realize that His help is coming to us right here and now from everywhere in unexpected ways, because we start seeing things as coming directly from God, not from the seeming causes that they're coming through. And that will be exactly what Ayah 13 is saying. And He will grant you yet another thing that you love dearly, help from God, and imminent breakthrough, and give the believers good news. And that's indeed good news. And that also includes a breakthrough of the message of the Quran itself, as it spreads in me, in my heart, in the hearts of those who truly surrender and accept the deal and sell everything back to God. And it spreads this way, that the message of the Quran starts spreading among people. And that's what is referred to in Ayah 8 and 9, if you remember. They want to extinguish God's light with their mouths, but God has willed to spread His light in all its fullness, however hateful this may be to the disbelievers. And in Ayah 9, He it is who has sent His messenger with the guidance and the religion of truth in order to make it prevail over all religion. And the religion here is light, as in Ayah 8, and self-surrender. And we know this from another area as well. Surrendering to God. That's the religion. Deen. Actually, it's not even religion. Deen means the way of life. The way of life that God prescribed to us, which is the way, the only way that will save us from grievous suffering in this world and in the next. It's the only way that takes us to eternal life, eternal happy life, eternal bliss and paradise, is surrendering unto God. So here, the deen here, which is usually translated as religion, but really means way of life, is self-surrender, and it is light. And the last ayah, which is ayah 14, we are told, "O you who have believed, be the helpers of God. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا أنصار الله كما قال عيسى بن مريم للحواريين من من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله فآمنت طائفة من بني إسرائيل وكفرت طائفة فأيدنا الذين آمنوا على عدوهم فأصبحوا ظاهرين. O you who have believed, again, you see this how many times, O you who have believed. So since you have believed, do it properly. Be the helpers of God. كونوا أنصار الله. How? Like, how do we become helpers of God? It says, even as Jesus, the son of Mary, said unto the disciples, who will be my helpers in God? Whereupon the disciples replied, we shall be the helpers of God. نحن أنصار الله. And so some of the children of Israel came to believe, whereas others denied. And we have given strength against their foes unto those who have believed. So those who have believed have been given strength against their enemies, and they have become the ones that shall prevail. So how do we become helpers of God? Do like the disciples of Isa alayhi salam, Jesus. Follow in ayah 5 and 6, it was about following in the path of the prophets, Musa alayhi salam, then Isa alayhi salam. Follow in their paths. Live as they lived, because they lived the guidance. They were surrenderers. Meaning, surrender to the divine will. Follow the divine guidance. The divine guidance is your only map to how to live in this world with the consciousness of Akhirah, to live every moment, because we're sending every moment. And so every moment here and now, how are we going to send it, to live it in surrender, so it is going to eternal bliss. What's interesting here is the word for disciple here is hawariyun, actually. And so not everyone translated it as disciples, because we know it's the name given to the disciples of Jesus alayhi salam, but actually it does not mean literally disciples. Some commentators understood it to mean those whose hearts are white and pure, and it's a reference to their total surrender, their faith in God, and they're living from the heart, not from the illusions of the ego. The word itself, hawariyun, comes from the root hawara, which has many meanings, but one of the meanings denotes to wash and whiten, to make white. And so this has been understood to be referring to their white clothes for some, and also to their pure hearts. Their hearts were washed, purified. And we're talking about inner purification. And they practiced purification. They purified their hearts from the illusions of the nafs. And they also called onto others to purify themselves. They were the helpers of Isa alayhi salam, and we know from a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, every prophet has his hawari, which means helpers in God. So here, all you who have believed, be the helpers of God. And we can only be helpers of God after we sell our lives and possessions to God and use them in the name of God. And then we can see the help everywhere, that we are being sustained and helped. And then when we see the help, can you see that it's coming after? So in ayah 13, we were told you will be given the thing that you love, something that you love so dearly, which is help from God and a breakthrough, and give the believers good news. And now it says, okay, now we are called to be the helpers of God. Because the helpers of God, I mean, it's not like God needs our help. It's like, what did Jesus and his disciple do? Show the others the way to get help from God. So this is how we are helping God, helping in his cause, in his path. Because God, in his infinite compassion and generosity, wants to help us. He is sending his help through the prophets, through the prophets bring messages and guidance. That guidance, the Quran tells us, look around, everywhere is an ayah, everything is helping you. All the angels prostrate to you. Everything is created to help you and make everything easy onto you. And then we look into our heart, and yes, our heart loves it. And so that's also an indication that we love it, means we need it and we want it. And we have been given that need to help others. And we can't just say, I got the help, I found the source of help, that's it, I'm good. No, we cannot. When we see others who need help, we want to help as well. That compassion has been put or is pouring into all of us. That's how we can know that our Rabb is compassionate. That's how we know that he's the helper, through my need for help myself and through my need to help others. When I'm made to help others, I can see haqq al-yaqeen, through the truth of certainty, living that name of God, that yes, you are the helper, because I don't know how I'm made to be helping others. And so being helpers in God is to spread the news that in surrender you will realize that you're getting all the help you need. And this is it is a breakthrough. It is a breakthrough for whoever lives it, whenever we surrender and we feel and experience the help of God everywhere, then it is a breakthrough. And then we want to share it with others, because we want others also to benefit from that divine help that makes everything easy, even the apparently very difficult situations. From the perspective of the ego, it's unacceptable, unbearable. But when we get from the perspective of the surrendered heart, it is something that's happening within a journey. It's just we're on the ship anyway, but the sea is stormy, but we are, even in the storm, we are being taken care of, we are being helped. And it's a journey, so we don't worry about it. It's again another sign reminding us how much we need God's help, and how we are being helped there when we need it. It's like we hunger for God's help and his compassion. So the disciples replied, we shall be the helpers of God. And so some of the children of Israel came to believe, whereas others denied. And this can be understood historically, but of course it has also a meaning to us now. Everyone has two options. We can believe and follow that path the path of help, the path of surrender, or deny. And it is those who believe that are given strength. It is those who believe that shall prevail in this world and the next. And here, prevail doesn't mean prevail, there is a battle and you prevail. Most of the time, we don't go, how many people go through such a situation? But prevailing in the sense of truth and light and haqiqah and reality. I think I'll stop here, and I think it's just such a beautiful surah, and I really love the last ayat. So if you want to add anything, you are welcome. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina. I found it very interesting that there is these two levels of reward.
Can't hear you if you're speaking, Isra.
I found it interesting. Do you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Okay. I'm sorry, my connection, I think, it's not good.
It's okay. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I found interesting that there are two levels of reward. So one is, forgiveness and paradise, and that's really the triumph, the relief, and also something you dearly love, which is an opening, or a breakthrough, a victory that's qareeb, that's soon to come. So it's beautiful that, and then the nasr, to feel the help from God. So I feel like it's beautiful that it's saying this deal puts us in a path that is good through and through, like in the process and ultimately as well. So in the process, we have a need to feel the opening soon, qareeb, and of course, even in the ultimate paradise, even that is felt here. We, as you always explain, when we talk about paradise, it is an ultimate, and at the same time, it is a reality that we start feeling and experiencing in this world. It's not just delayed fulfillment, but you feel the fulfillment from now. If you do this deal, if you do genuinely believe and strive in God, but still, even then, that verse 13, highlighting what we dearly love, that we want to feel that nasr, that help now, and we want to feel, see the opening soon. I don't know if it adds to it or detracts from what you're saying, but I wanted to share that. And
I think it is a nice highlight.
And the other thing is, it is interesting in verse 13, it talks about, highlighting what we dearly want is this help from God. And this, by the way, this reminds me of a saying, which I think is from Ibn Arabi on Moses' story in the Quran. He says the journey meaning journey of human being, is a journey in which you you find yourself abundant in an ark. That's what you think. And then to realize that you're never abundant, like Moses alayhi salam, when he, as a baby, when he was put in the box and into the river, if you don't know the story, if you look from outside, oh, this is abundant, but actually this is part of a bigger plan. The mother puts the baby in the box due to a divine instruction, and it's part of a plan. Actually, he's being taken care of. He's not being abundant, and the whole journey is to come to a state. What is it?
And he is being saved, because otherwise they were going to be killed.
Exactly.
Right? For the ego, it seemed like, okay, we say trauma all our life. My mother left me there. SubhanAllah. The ego never sees beyond.
Yeah. So he's saying that the journey is to realize that you are in the ark, in that box, but you're never abundant. That's the journey. Initially, it looks like you may think I'm abundant, and then the journey is to realize you're always healthy. So we had that need of feeling that nasr, that help from God. So that's verse 13. And interestingly, in the last verse, verse 14, it says, will you help God? Different word.
It only makes sense after, if you go through everything and you come to 13, living it, then 14 makes sense. But if we do it as we do, we just read without living, it means like, come on, the ego will says, you said you will help us, you want help from us? Subhanallah. Astaghfirullah.
Yeah, it's right after each other, verse 13 and 14, and exactly same like word, nasr. And you feel God's nasr, that help from God, and then you help God. But of course, God doesn't need our help in any way. But to help in God's cause, what does that connection is.
Not even fi sabilillah. It's directly يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا أنصار الله. Be the helpers of God. That's it. In some other places, it says في سبيل الله, for instance, in the path, in the cause of God. Here, it's like, unless you go through it, it just doesn't seem to make sense. So the Wazai will have to make ta'wil, how do you reinterpret everything to make sense.
No, in the verse,
but actually, it makes sense. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and in the verse, actually, when it says be helpers, then when it turns to Isa, Jesus alayhi salam, peace be upon him, he says, who will be my helpers in God's cause? So it kind of unpacks, what does it mean to help God, to be God's helper? Of course, you need God's help. You can't be God's helper in the same sense. But, Isa alayhi salam saying, who's going to be my helper in
من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله. It's not again من أنصاري في سبيل الله.
So what do you think? Like, don't you think that men?
Yeah, it is. Of course, it is giving us the clues that he's saying من أنصاري إلى الله. That's what we said previously, that it is following the prophets, and that's ayah 5 and 6 as well. But the Hawariyun, again, they say نحن أنصار الله. It means it's equating these two, but it's not in God's cause, because the more words we add, the more unknowns. In God, it says, who will help me in God? They answer, we are God's helpers. But of course, what we understand by God's helpers is if we never confirmed 13, we wouldn't know what to say. We will have to add words to it. But if we went through not only 13, but all the previous ayats, when we sell everything back to God, then we understand that actually everything is given and we are being helped right now. And so my seeing is not from me. It's a reflection of the Basir. That's why it becomes, as I surrender and use it in the way I am instructed, then I start also realizing that the reason why I am using it that way, because it is not truly mine. It's only coming through me. I cannot use it in my name when it's not mine. My seeing right now is being sustained just like my breathing. My voice also is being sustained right now. And so the helper, when we are helping in God's name, the true helper is him only. It's not me. So helping God, when I'm helping others, I'm helping spread not only the divine message, but the part of the divine message as a deeper level is that he alone is the helper. And that's why the prophets are muhsins, because they are totally transparent. They didn't act in their own name. So for instance, if they give you something, they don't say, I'm giving you. They say, he's the giver. He's making me give, and I'm giving because he told me to give. And that told me is not only in the Quran, but also in the fitrah, that it truly, he's the one who creates us with that need. And when I see someone in need, he's the one who instills in me that compassion that moves me to help. So what you said is correct. I'm just saying the fact that the words, let's not add words, because in the English translations, they all add those words. And so from one point of view, it can be good because then it's not confusing. From another point of view, it's a veil onto other levels of that text is pointing to, is indicating. Wallahu a'lam.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to make a comment or ask a question? Okay, so in that case, we will stop here. And this is our
Inshallah.
last session on the Surah 61, at least for now. And
also our last session this year.
Yeah, and our last session for this year. Thank you very much, Sister Yamina. Jazakumullah khair. And thank you everybody who joined us tonight. And we look forward to seeing many of you, most of you, at the retreat, inshallah, in 2 days. And for others, we'll inshallah see you next year. And let's keep each other in prayers, and let's keep everybody, the whole humanity, and especially those who are in extremely difficult circumstances. May Allah bless them and save them all. Help Allah in Aleppo. May Allah help. Nasrun min Allah, inshallah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah khair.